now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
6:37. Good Thursday morning to you. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, joined now by Lanny Davis, former Clinton White House counsel. It's been a while, Lanny. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, I've been down watching my oldest son, Seth Davis, doing the Final Four, holding up a sign saying, "I'm Seth Davis's father. I'm not chopped liver."
Yeah, right. Well, he did a great job. Maybe you should hold up a sign saying, "I'm for the 1%." Right? No? Okay, maybe not.
Yeah. And I have to say that the picks in the pool ended up where my wife won the pool, and Seth and I were both wrong. It just goes to show that dart throwing is a better way of picking winners.
Is that right? Did he come in last place in the Davis?
He's a great expert, and he did pick Kansas and Kentucky, and he did pick Kentucky, so I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. Well, we had him on the show not too long ago, and we really like your son, Seth Davis. He's very good on television as well.
As opposed to
no, we weren't going there.
Hey, before we get into the president's comments about the Supreme Court, I'm sure you watched or at least heard the arguments that were being made by the Solicitor General and by the lawyer representing the states, and then the comments from the justices. As a liberal and as a lawyer, how are you feeling right now about the Supreme Court's decision? Which way do you think they're going to go?
Well, I don't know where the president gets his confidence from. This is a 5-4 decision overturning the mandate. You heard it here, no ifs, ands, and buts. The decision is a close call for me as a liberal. I am in favor of this legislation. It's good social policy to require everyone to pay for insurance, just as we require everyone to participate in Social Security, even though when you're young you don't benefit, but someday you get old. That's the idea. When you're healthy, you help pay for people who are not. You keep insurance premiums down. That's the reason for the individual mandate. But I do think it's a close call on whether the Commerce Clause can mandate people to do something.
So from a political standpoint, you sort of like it? You sort of like it, but you have some legal concerns? Am I reading you right?
I think it's a close call. If I were sitting on the Supreme Court, I'd probably vote my ideology in favor of it, but with constitutional doubts, if that's the honest answer. But I do think it's a little bit sanctimonious and hypocritical for Republicans to be so shocked that the President of the United States actually has First Amendment rights. Imagine the President speaking his mind about the Supreme Court, the holy Supreme Court that you're not allowed to criticize as President. Since when our founders gave us 3 co-equal branches of government, the Supreme Court can overrule the President can criticize the Supreme Court, and Congress can criticize both. That's our structure of government. Where is the shock that Barack Obama had the temerity to criticize the Supreme Court?
Well, what he said, though, was what is in question, and he said that it would be, that it was an unelected court, and that it would be unprecedented for them to take this action to strike down the law. Even Lawrence Tribe, who, liberal people love Lawrence Tribe. I mean, they turn into a big puddle of goo at the very mention of his name. And he said the president obviously misspoke about this.
Well, Lawrence Tribe can say, I disagree with the president, but he didn't say he doesn't have a right to express his opinion. And let us say a little bit of hypocrisy here. Have you ever heard a Republican criticize legislative activists, liberal judges?
Yes, they have. They do all the time. But here's the one.
Conservatives attack the Supreme Court when they don't like our decision. Liberals attack the Supreme Court when they don't like the decision. Let's just apply the same standard. I disagree with Barack Obama saying what he said. I think it will have a counterproductive result. I think Justice Kennedy is a swing vote, isn't going to be persuaded to change his mind because Barack Obama is hammering him. I think it was a poor judgment decision by Obama to do it, but I defend his right as an American citizen to express his opinion.
All right, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Obviously, the president can, make an opinion or give an opinion on the Supreme Court or make comments on the Supreme Court. I didn't have as big of a problem as other conservatives did when he made the comments in front of the Supreme Court justices at the State of the Union address. But obviously, that was unprecedented because it's usually not done right in front of their face. But here's the difference: is that this case still hasn't been decided yet, and for him to get out there and use the bully pulpit, What was he trying to do? What was the purpose of his little speech or his talk about the Supreme Court? Was he lobbying them? Was he trying to intimidate them? I think that maybe is what people are concerned about, and what Ed Meese said on our show earlier, which was it's just unbecoming of the president to do that at this specific time.
Well, I hate when you ask me questions where I have to agree with you, and this is really uncomfortable that I have to agree with you. But I have to agree with you. I don't know. I don't like the word unbecoming. It just simply is counterproductive. As a pragmatist, if we want to get that fifth vote, the last thing we want to do is beat up on Justice Kennedy and disparage the very valid reasons that he could vote against this thing, which I think are valid. So I just don't think it was productive, and if to achieve the result he wants to try to jawbone people, I think he might actually get Justice Kennedy to swing the other direction.
All right, so what happens now then, Lanny? Let's say you're right, the Supreme Court strikes it down. By the way, do you think they'll strike down the entire bill? Will they say, hey, the whole thing's got to go, or will they kick it back to Congress?
No, I think they'll kick it back to Congress. It's a little bit too radical. I think Justice Roberts is actually less inclined by virtue of the questions he asked to try to strike an entire bill down because of the individual mandate going over the line. I think he's going to throw it back to Congress. And, there could have been a bill that would have gotten 70, 75 votes if they had followed Ron Wyden and Bob Bennett, who was a conservative Republican from Utah, paid for it by doing this, to allow people to buy insurance by liquefying, cashing out their employer-paid insurance and going into the marketplace and forcing on national exchanges.
Well, yeah, there were clearly other ways to do this that would have been constitutional. All right, so if they kick it back, though, to the Congress and say, hey, this part of the bill is unconstitutional, you guys got to fix it, that's a mess. I mean, it's a mess for everyone. It's a mess for this country because right now there is no appetite to make these changes, to make it work. And if you're an insurance company and you wanted this or you agreed to this because you were going to get the money from everybody getting on insurance plans, and now you have to basically adhere to hey, if you're under 26, you can get on your parents' plan, and we'll insure everybody, even with pre-existing conditions. I mean, how in the world is this going to be fixed if it's sent back to Congress?
Well, it's possible to fix it, but not with the individual mandate ensures that everybody's paying healthy and unhealthy people. That's the reason why conservatives invented the idea of the individual mandate. As you recall, it was an idea of the American Enterprise Institute, so it's a private marketplace work. But
it was a Heritage Foundation. I don't think it was AEI.
So, look, they're going to have to fix at least catastrophic insurance and people that can't afford insurance. There's a middle position that could have been taken by the Obama administration one step at a time. Instead, they went for the whole thing. We're going to have to go back to the politics of compromise and do things step by step, which isn't exactly the end of the world.
I need a one-word answer. Possible or not possible?
Likely. If we have the right bipartisan coalition and Barack Obama becomes a different kind of second-term president, willing to lead, take on the basic party and coalitions.
And on that note, apparently his cell phone is dying. Okay, Lanny Davis always.